What if your body already holds the key to your healing and spiritual transformation? If only you knew how to unlock it. Today, we are joined by three incredible energy practitioners who each bring a unique lens to how we can release what holds us back, reconnect to our body's wisdom, and raise our vibration to live more fully aligned, awakened lives. Welcome to Happiness on Tap, where we fill your cup with inspiration, resilience, and real life tools to help you create your happiest, most fulfilling life. I'm your host, Leann Herron. And today I am joined by three powerful energy practitioner experts, Dr. Adriana Popescu, Dr. Elsbeth Meuth, and Emily Gilcrease, who are here to share how to release blocks, awaken your body's energy, and channel it for growth, healing, and spiritual evolution. I'm honored to be joined by these three brilliant guests whose work has transformed lives across the globe. My mission with this show is to spread expert health and wellness education far and wide, to make it go viral so that more people have access to the knowledge and practices that can truly transform their lives. Make sure you stick around till the end for a special Valentine's edition bonus question. Thank you to our guests for being here and to our listeners for tuning in. And let's dive in. We'll begin by having our expert panel members introduce themselves, including information about what they do and who they help in the world. Here to start us out is Dr. Adriana Popescu. Dr. Adriana, can you tell people about what you do and who you help?
Hi, Leann. So happy to be with you today. I am a licensed clinical psychologist. I specialize in addiction and trauma treatment. And I'm also an empowerment coach based out of the San Francisco Bay Area. I've been working in this field over 25 years. And what I've come to realize is we are standing in our own way. The big, whatever limitation it is that we're dealing with, it's often coming from some sort of limiting belief. I work a lot with limiting beliefs, and I take a more holistic approach to healing, where my understanding at this point is that in order to heal from any kind of mental health condition, we really need to be looking beyond just mental and emotional. We have to include the body and the spiritual as well. So I have a holistic lens to my private practice. I also help run a drug and alcohol rehab program here locally in the area. I've written some books. I'm a podcast host myself. And I'm really here to empower people to live a life of infinite possibilities.
Thank you, Dr. Adriana. I have enjoyed our past experience having you on the podcast, being on your podcast. And that's why I wanted to bring you here, because I know you have a broad range of experience. And I just think it can provide a lot of value to our listeners. So thank you for joining us today. Dr. Elsbeth.
Thank you so much, Leann. Delighted to be here and add another dimension to Adriana's, where I come from, where I contribute to others is through the love energy. And love energy, how it shows up in our heart, how it shows up in our sex, how it shows up in our mental as well as spiritual dimensions. And then most importantly, to integrate so that they can flow and dance together. And through that integration, coming to greater coherence so that we can step out of suffering, of pain, be it physical, emotional, mental pain, into wholeness, which then leads to fulfillment. And that is what I do with my husband and business partner. We have an institute in Chicago. It's called the Tantra Nova Institute. Our work is based, or a big part of the work is based in Tantra, which is a tradition that comes from East India and is all about working with our energies. We are all familiar with yoga. However, most what we are familiar with is the physical yoga, like hatha yoga. Tantra yoga is the yoga of the energetic body. And so we get to listen and to work with our energies that produces healing then, integration, fulfillment, pleasure, and joy.
Thank you so much, Elspeth. I look forward to continuing to learn more about what you do. As we mentioned before we started, congratulations on 25 years of what you are doing and the people that you are working with. So I'm looking forward to go a little deeper with each of you and learn more about what you do. So thank you, Elsbeth, for being here. Emily, how about you?
Hi, I am so honored to be here returning with you and to share space with powerful women. And it's my mission, and this started from when I was a Girl Scout, the Girl Scout rule, to leave every place better than we found it. And so I've kind of adapted that into my motto of leaving the planet a better place than I found it. That comes from the way that I show up for myself, how I appreciate, respect, and treat the earth. I have a business. It's applied behavior analysis. I'm a behavior analyst, and just how I treat my employees. I've founded a self-love club there that's all about pouring back into ourselves so that we are in service from a full cup and not from a sense of burnout. I'm also a life coach. I started that a few years ago. And really, it's all about the path that I've been on of self discovery and feeling so inspired by all of the tools that I've learned, and then being able to integrate both the science and the spirituality, because spirituality and energy is really the foundation for everything that I do and all that I serve. So I'm really excited to hear all of our different perspectives and how we all contribute to this wonderful world of energy and healing.
Thank you, Emily. I look forward to learning more about you, although I've had you now on the show twice, and I've learned about all of the wonderful things that you do to help people. But this is a different angle from what we've discussed in the past. So I'm really looking forward to you sharing more about the energy side of your work.
Thank you.
Okay, so we'll start with the basics. We're going to go in the same order as you have met our wonderful guests. So we'll go to Dr. Adriana. Dr. Adriana, how do you define energy healing and energy transformation in your work? And how does this energy actually move or shift within the body?
Well, I kind of see everything through the lens of energy, right? Whether we're talking about thoughts or emotions, or we're talking about trauma and how it impacts us, because I work a lot with that. To me, it's even physical sensations, it's all energy. And energy can move, it can get stuck, it can get imbalanced. And what we're doing when we're healing is we're moving energy. If you look at a lot of the modalities of energy psychology, which is one of my specialties, a lot of them are based on traditional healing methods like acupuncture, meridian theory, coming from traditional Chinese medicine that's been around for about 5,000 years. Or maybe we're working more with the Indian energy systems, those are the chakras, or maybe we're working with the biofield. Some people would call that your aura. But essentially, it's the idea that dis-ease or, issues we may have psychologically or physiologically are based in some sort of energetic imbalance or blockage of some sort. And we are trying with our healing methods to move and shift those energies so that the body, mind, and spirit can be restored to balance and well-being.
Thank you, Dr. Adriana. And that is, again, that's what really interested me in bringing the three of you together to talk about these different facets of energy work. So thank you for kind of getting us started and explaining that. Dr. Elsbeth, let's move on to you with the same question. How do you define energy healing and energy transformation in your work?
Yeah, thank you. So, energy is just like with Adriana, the way she shared about energy. Everything is actually energy. We come from energy and we return to energy. So there is in our physical manifestation, energy becomes denser. Like my body is denser than water. I can walk through water, but I cannot walk through a wall because a wall is denser than my physical body. I can walk through air. Although there are particles in the air, there are particles in water, there are particles here in my physical body, and of course, more particles in a wall. So we can either look at ourselves from a dense place or from a translucent place. And when I say looking at ourselves, it's like an awareness, a consciousness that I can start listening to my body and the energies that are running through me. So the original energy that drives everything is life force energy, and life force is sexual in nature. We wouldn't be talking here if it hadn't been for that energy. It brought us into this life. So in my work, in our work, we actually provide practices and awarenesses where people can tune with their life force energy that emanates from the base of the spine, moves all the way up through the spine to the top of the head and back down again. It's circular on the inhale up. On the exhale, life force energy moves down. It's there if we know it or if we don't. We can learn to tune with that energy, and through the breath, we can also then guide this energy moving through our body, moving through emotions. Emotions are pure energy. Thoughts are pure energy. We cannot touch them. We cannot see them. But my gosh, do my thoughts have me? Sometimes in a circular, obsessive way, just as my emotions, just as my sexual energy may have me, where I may not have my sexual energy. How that may show up for someone is it's either that energy is suppressed, so I'm not connected with it, which also means my life force energy is tempered, or the other way around, I'm obsessed with it, oversexed, So the point here is to connect with this life-giving energy so that I can draw on it as a source. And when I learn to draw on that energy as a source, given that it's aliveness and creativity and pleasure, that's all encapsulated in that life-giving energy, I can draw on that energy for healing, for pleasure, for creation, and, for fueling my aliveness. And so that is available both for the individual. Of course, we want to practice this over here by ourselves, as well as then in relationship, where we then can embellish the connection between two beloveds to an extent that really can take us to whole new levels of love, of bliss, of joy, pleasure, of whatever we may dream of.
Yes, absolutely. I have loved learning from you and Freddie when you talk about and explain that exchange of energy between partners and how that energy flows between partners, not just within ourselves, but how we then can exchange that with our partners. And it's so beautiful. And again, another reason why I was just intrigued to bring you on this topic particularly, so that people can understand more about our energy life force and how it can help us and how we can exchange that with others and protect ourselves. So, Emily, how about you? How do you define energy healing or energy transformation in your work? And how do you teach people how to move or shift that energy within their body?
Well, I love this question, and it's as simple as what Adriana said, that energy is everything. But then also going to Elsbeth's point, what I really loved about how she articulated was that energy is respondent. It's respondent to our intentions. And when we have an intention to work through emotional healing, whether that's a limiting belief, we are struggling with grief, we feel like we have a block from finding ourselves. Emotions are energy in motion. So oftentimes we think of it as this big, hard to process concept, but it really is just as simple as what we're breathing and what we're intending to do with it. So it's neutral. It's not good or bad. So it's kind of like that center point to come back to, that home space whenever things are going on around us. We can come back to the truth that we're energy beings, that we're surrounded by energy. And as a Reiki practitioner, when I first started getting my attunement, it's not that you have to have Reiki training to do energy work, but it goes again back to what Elsbeth said about that life force energy and understanding just how powerful it is and how powerful we are as beings, that it's respondent to our requests and our intentions. So as a practitioner, I not only can teach my clients how to tap into and just be intentional with their own healing, but also holding the space and holding the intention and amplification. Because my intention paired with their intention together, just like if the four of us started having a shared intention, it amplifies, it's powerful, it grows. And that's how I really think of energy, both from an individual perspective and as a practitioner in my work.
Thank you for sharing that. That is valued information, because I think that when we think about how we're interacting with other people, even being in the same energy field with another person, whether it's somebody you know or somebody you don't know, how that can affect you without you even realizing that maybe you're pulling some of their energy, or your energy fields are kind of connecting with each other. So it's so interesting to look at this from so many different perspectives. So thank you for bringing that into thought for everybody to understand more about not just energy work, but our energy fields. So we'll go on to the next question, because this is something that's always happening. Many of our listeners have experienced emotional pain or burnout. And burnout and overwhelm is something that is really happening at a fast pace right now, because people are being pulled in so many different directions with what's going on in the world, spending time trying to help everyone else, not focusing on ourselves. So we'll start back with Dr. Adriana. What are some of the most common energetic blocks that you see in your clients, and how do you begin to release or move through them?
Well, I think actually what comes to mind when you ask that question, Leann, when you talk about burnout and the challenges of what we're dealing with in the world today, the first thought I had was about nervous system dysregulation, right? That when we're in a state of burnout, we're exhausted, we're depleted, we don't have access to our life force energy, or we've been burning so much fuel, so to speak, that our tank has become empty, right? So that can show up as people being exhausted. I hear from a lot of people right now, a lot of people are exhausted. They're fatigued. They're drained. Or some of them might be numb. Like another response might be that they're overwhelmed with everything and they just kind of go numb and check out. Obviously, that's a big issue for folks with addiction issues. So I think what we're talking about is blocks to life force energy and to staying connected, like both internally with our own like spirit and bodies and our own well-being, as well as being connected to the world around us and the earth and the universe and higher power, or whatever that may be for you. I think that's what's happening, is we're getting disconnected, and it's all about the nervous system constantly getting triggered to that fight, flight, freeze response.
So, what would you say would be a suggestion or recommendation for somebody that's in that position? You kind of brought up connecting with the earth.
Mhm.
Grounding has always been something that really helps me when I'm kind of feeling either disconnected or really exhausted.
I think it's to understand that we actually do have control over some of this. Like, we may not be able, especially if you're someone who's had a history of trauma, your brain will have a tendency, the amygdala, specifically the fear center of your brain that activates this whole fight, flight, freeze, stress response. It'll have a tendency to overreact to things that aren't really life or death situations, like, a predator in the forest or something. Like, that was what it was originally designed for. So I think learning how to regulate your nervous system and to calm yourself down is really key. And that's a lot of what I teach to my clients. It could be as simple as like, specific paced breathing exercises. It could be tapping on acupuncture points, EFT, or any of the many other energy psychology or energy medicine methods, but also, yes, like connecting with the earth, moving your body through some sort of physical activity, movement, dance, walking, exercise, whatever it is. All of those are going to be really important. Any kind of spiritual practice you can engage in, meditation, prayer, or even being in nature. For many people, that's a spiritual experience. But yeah, really getting the energy grounded and calming that fight, flight, freeze response are key.
Thank you. Thank you so much. That was definitely the direction I kind of wanted to head into this so that people can realize one, like you said, that we are in control. And as we develop these different practices that can really just help us ground ourselves, calm our nervous system, learning to listen to our body, it is all so completely valuable. Dr. Elspeth, how about you? What are some of the common energetic blocks that you see with doing Tantra work with individuals or partners?
Yeah, so, you know, we often encounter either individuals or couples coming where the spark has gone out of the relationship. They may have been focused very much on the children, and then they went to college, and now the parents are by themselves, and they are different people than they were 20 years earlier when they met. And then back to the life force, that where blocks may be is that my life force energy may be blocked because I carry around guilt or shame. I may not even know about it. Or fear is such a blocker of life, of the flow of life force energy. So it is really connecting with that flow that is there already. I really want to remind people that this energy is with you at all times. It may be dormant, it may be diminished or like shut down, but ultimately it never leaves us. So then back to the question of what can we do? And Adriana, one of the practices she suggested is breathing, simply breathing. Before I go further into that, I want to show you an energy ball. So this energy ball has two metal pieces. It's like a minus and a plus, like in an outlet. So when I connect these two metal pieces through me, the ball lights up. When I disconnect, it's gone. So what's so great about the ball is that we can see energy or hear through the sound. I cannot hear the frequency of the sun rays. That doesn't mean that the sun rays don't have a sound, but we cannot hear it. Our eardrums and connection to the brain, that's not set up for hearing sounds of the universe or sun rays. We can see them with our eyes, just as we cannot see, the frequency that runs from my vocal cords to your eardrums, whoever's listening right now. But we cannot see these frequencies. The ball makes it visible, makes energy visible and audible. What I did here with the circuit, when I'm burned out, I'm disconnected from the circuit. So what can I do to reconnect? And one practice that is really effective is the belly breath, the parasympathetic breath. And if you want to place your hand, your right hand, around the navel area for a moment, if you are not driving, you can close your eyes, otherwise keep your eyes open, and exhale all air. Empty yourself totally out. And then take a deep breath in through the nose and follow the breath into the lungs, and notice how the diaphragm gets pushed down, the belly gets pushed into your hand. And on the exhalation, following the breath coming up and out of your nostrils. One more time, deep breath in through the nose, all the way down into the belly. Open the belly into the hand. And on the exhalation, notice the breath moving up and out of your nostrils. And then sit for a moment and just notice how you feel. You can open your eyes again and come back. Whew, let's just check in. How do you feel?
Wonderful. Wonderful. One of my favorite tools.
Great. And it's so quick. What is required is willingness and focus to stay with it for a few breaths. What's created in your body is like there's more oxygen. The brain gets enlivened, more oxygen in the blood, which is associated with greater aliveness. By breathing into the belly, we activate the parasympathetic nervous system back to the nervous system that Adriana brought up, that we alter the nervous system and that we do it in the moment. Not that I have to wait until the evening when I'm home and can lie down on the sofa or so. No, right in the moment at your desk, in the moment when your child screams, So,
Again, thank you, Elsbeth, for pulling and providing one tool that people can do at the moment when they need it to help us connect. I, learned that through learning how to meditate, which was something I never thought I could do, much less develop a daily habit of doing it. But what that taught me was that ability that I had that with me all the time. We all breathe, but it's the intention, it's the focus, and like you said, the time that you can do this all the time when you need it. If it's you're stressed out in the grocery store, standing in line, or even when you're driving, you don't necessarily have to close your eyes because you have that breath. You can still breathe in and breathe out. And just take those few breaths can really bring us into a different perspective and a different level of calm that sometimes we forget that we actually have that control over our calm and how valuable the breath is. So thank you, Elsbeth, for guiding us through a couple of quick breaths just to provide those tools to people. I appreciate that. How about you, Emily? What are some of the things that you do when you're working with clients as well to help them?
Yeah. First of all, wow, thank you so much for that, Elspeth. I kind of got lost in the clouds there. And that's really the beauty of our ability as humans to be able to shift what's going on within ourselves. Going back to the question, what I find in common with the community that I serve isn't necessarily that the blocks are the same, but what's underneath the blocks, how the blocks got built to begin with, from programs, limiting beliefs, childhood, our past experiences. And underneath it all is fear, like we previously mentioned, a desire to feel loved, but a fear that if we allow ourselves to love or to be loved, that we may get hurt. And going back to how energy and emotions are related, it's that we have to come back to the knowing that as human beings, we were designed to feel our emotions, but we haven't been taught how to. So we're afraid of them because they can be denser. They're not all love and light. But I feel like the simplest tool is remembering that we were designed to feel and simply feet on the ground, centering within yourself and giving yourself permission in this moment. I am safe. I am safe to feel this emotion. And then tuning into the body and naming it, locating it, and just breathing with it, telling yourself it's okay to feel this. You're not wrong to feel this. You're allowed to feel this because it only takes 90 seconds for an emotion to process when we're not creating stories about it and we're not up here in our mind, when we're in our body. So that was a beautiful example of breath work, the somatic practice of being in the body and really feeling the emotion come and go, and then coming back to that center. And when you create that space, then you can lean into what is the next feeling that I want to feel, alchemizing the pain or the denser emotion and then fueling it to serve.
Thank you, Emily. And thank you for bringing up the 90 seconds, the average of how long an emotion is peaked in our system. And that I think for people when they're really heightened in like an extreme panic attack or an anxiety attack, it's so hard to see that there's an end out there. And it just feels like
Absolutely.
it's so intense. And then you cause kind of those thoughts to ruminate and keep it alive. But if you can learn how to utilize those tools that are available to us, you can bring that calm versus the switch of the overthinking or getting lost in the emotion and the thought. So thank you for bringing up just kind of for people to know that there is an end and you can control it. You can help bring it along. And so thank you again for sharing that. There's a lot of curiosity and sometimes skepticism around energy work. What's one experience or story that really made you certain that energy healing is real and transformative?
Well, I think it's my own experience. I'm the guinea pig that I always test things on. Well, how I even got into the field and working with energy was really through my own struggles, like many of us, right? I had, after college, I was living in Colorado. I had become mysteriously ill. The doctors could not figure out what was going on with me. It took them actually 13 years to figure out that I had Lyme disease with chronic fatigue syndrome. And so Western medicine didn't have a lot to offer me. And so that's what really began my quest for alternative healing. I was also at the same time had the very strong intuitive sense to go to massage therapy school in Boulder, Colorado. And that's really was my first experience with energy work. And then after that, I discovered when I came to California, I worked with an acupuncturist who had learned a modality called NET, neuro emotional technique. From there, I ended up at my first energy psychology conference and learned tapping and one called Be Set Free Fast that I love to work with. And it was through these different modalities that as we released the energy of trauma that was held in my body from my early life experiences, or worked with a lot of limiting beliefs I had around, and this is kind of known with people with chronic fatigue, this type A, like superwoman, like I can do it all and I can do it all on my own. I was really pushing hard there. And I was an empath who, like you said earlier, Leann, was taking on a lot of energy from other people. And so I would use these modalities with different practitioners, and then I would notice that my own health would improve, that the herbs and the homeopathy and these other medicines that I was using would start to become more effective when I would clear out and rebalance these energies that were contributing and part of my dis-ease. And so as I was able to create more ease energetically, my body could heal. And it took 17 years, but I can say that I'm Lyme free and happier and healthier than I've ever been because of all these tools. And so that's how it started for me. And then I got, of course, to start using it with clients. I got to grad school, I was working with clients. I was lucky enough that I was able to use these techniques with clients. I did a dissertation study. And that to me, cinched the deal. Like, not only did it work on me, it worked on all these other people. Now it's been thousands of people over the years that I've worked with who've really had profound, even miraculous results.
Thank you, Adriana. I've always been intrigued since the first time I met you and learned your story about how it affected you, how learning this information and utilizing these tools just for yourself made this huge change that most people still have no answers. And so, again, that's why I wanted to bring you on here to share your story and how it helped you. But I love how us as healers and helpers, by sharing our story as well as what we have seen through working with our clients and see the changes in them and how these modalities help others, that's what makes me want to continue to bring people here and share their experiences and share who they help and how they help others through what they've learned. Because it's our experience, as you said, that really is how we show people that this stuff is real. Like, some people become very skeptical because they don't know. And so the more that they can learn from somebody else who has experienced it and maybe just connect with your story. Lyme disease, that's something that so many people have. And so if having you here sharing your story can help one person, 10 people, 100 people, thank you for what you do and for being here to share that with others. I appreciate that.
Thank you. And I do want to just say one more thing, too. I mean, the science is finally catching up to our lived experiences. And what's really great, and what people don't know, including people often in my own field of mental health, they're not aware that there are at this point hundreds of published research studies in peer reviewed journals, like top notch design, where I think the evidence is incontrovertible when you're looking at MRIs and you're looking at someone's brain before energy work and after energy work, and you see differences in how the brain is functioning. I mean, or you measure the level of cortisol in the body, or you're looking at EEGs and brain waves. Like, we have so much data now from science because we have the technology to measure energy now, that it's no longer indisputable or woo woo. I used to give talks and people would like tune out, like in Charlie Brown, the teacher, wah, wah, wah. And now when I lead with the science, people are like, huh, that's interesting. And they're more receptive to it. So I think also knowing the science and being able to explain that to people is really key in dealing with some of that resistance and skepticism.
Yes, thank you for bringing that up. I've noticed that even with myself, because I have blood work done quarterly through my doctor because she's monitoring different things. And just the changes that I have seen in my cortisol levels, in uh, everything, every part of my blood work, seeing the difference just in the last 3 years or 5 years, and this being literally the healthiest I've ever been. And I can see those changes. I can see what was higher, what was low, and knowing the changes that I've made and really learning more about my body and understanding things like system regulation. Like, I didn't know what that was. Learning somatic work, learning about the power of the breath through meditation, everything I have learned over the last 5 years. And like you said, having the science catch up with those things makes it easier for us to guide people, but also utilizing the benefit of this wonderful platform of having a podcast is that I can refer people. I can refer someone to you in your specialty area because it's outside of my specialty area. Although some of the modalities are going to be the same that I have experienced, you still have so many more layers to the different things that you can offer people. So again, thank you for sharing that and the importance of being educated, being educated for yourself. That is so powerful. So Dr. Elsbeth, would you like to come on and share a story or an experience?
Thank you. Yeah, so we often call it, tantric healing, sexual healing, love healing. And I also came to do this work out of facing my own despair over my life in terms of intimacy and love and being able to create love. And that was like, over, 20, almost 30 years ago, I had gotten very despaired about that because when I hit 50, I really was like, I noticed that while I had love and intimacy in my life, but I was not able to sustain it. So I had the pattern of attracting unavailable men. And while that was exciting, most of the time I was alone. And that really hit me. And like an awareness. And I didn't want to settle for this. Just like, okay, this is just how my life looks until I leave this planet. And that is how I came to Tantra and through this deep healing work on a sexual, emotional, mental, and spiritual level. And what I discovered in my own healing process was that I had held distrust towards men. And I was not aware of that. I didn't run around like a distrusting bitch. I was very charming and inviting. There was a discrepancy within myself. And so, of course, there was deeper work then to be done for me to clear that distrust, but through the tantric healing that was availed to me. And then 6 months later, Freddie Satal, my beloved, came into my life. He was available. And I'm glad I did this work of clearing my unavailability pattern, because if I hadn't, I wouldn't have recognized Freddie as a potential partner. I mean, I would have seen him. He's tall, he's handsome, all of it. But as a potential partner is a whole other dimension. So that really, brought a whole new sphere into my life out of meeting Freddie. And in our work, that is a big part, guiding, be it individual or couples, through their own sexual healings and what that entails, and clearing the fear, clearing the distrust, clearing the guilt, whatever it may be, clearing stories that we are not even aware of that, however, run our life. And that is where we learn to draw on that sexual life force energy that has these healing capacities. And they're very particular practices that are first practiced in subtle energy forms, because if we were to go right away to aroused sexual energy practices, nothing would change, because the nervous system is so used to whatever we learned about our sexual self, our intimate self, through these energies. So we want to really recalibrate the nervous system through subtle energy practices, and then building up where we can bring these subtle energy practices into an aroused state, and then drawing on the energy, harnessing the energy for healing purposes and for bringing aliveness to body, soul, and mind.
Thank you, Elsbeth, for taking it on that path so that people can understand so much more about our energy, and knowing that there is available tools to help us overcome, whether it's sexual trauma or, like you said, just different blockages within us that we may not even realize are there, that have just been so ingrained that we repeated these patterns over and over and over again. And the importance of taking that time as an individual to look at those things and to look at, what do we want? That being the biggest focus is, what do we want in our future, in our next partner? And that was so beneficial for me. I took 3 years after coming out of a 20-year divorce before I even started considering looking for a partner, because I needed to learn how to love myself before I could share that with another. And like you, without doing that work, I don't think I would have even recognized what a beautiful soul is in my husband, because he wouldn't have been in that same pattern of men that I had had in my past. So thank you for sharing that and helping people to understand that there's a lot of internal work that we need to do, and then there's work that we can do in our relationships with others. So, Emily, let's talk about an experience or a story that really made you certain that energy work is real and transformative in your life.
Yeah. Amazing conversation, from healing from Lyme disease to like having the best blood work of your life to finding the love of your life. It's just amazing how it holds so much, I just get really excited in these conversations. And when I first started doing quote unquote energy work with myself, it was TRE, trauma release exercises, that I was having done with a practitioner. And I was skeptic. I was like, I don't know if this really works. I don't know, but you know what? I'm going to try it. And so, from my own experience, and that's the key word is experience, I think you can be skeptic and still move forward with something. And it's through the experiential evidence that we then start to believe. And for me, there were two big moments of my life where I just knew. One of them was, again, after I had my Reiki attunement, and I would practice with a friend, just sending distance Reiki. And one morning when I was sending her Reiki, I got this image of her standing on the top of a mountain. And there was more to the story, but we would send to each other what came through for us whenever we would send the energy. And she lives in Georgia. And it just so happened that that morning that I had that vision, she was actually in Hawaii at the top of a mountain. And so, from an intuitive standpoint, once I really got the Reiki attunement and started tapping in to really my own pure energy of essence, all of that came online for me. And I knew there was no coincidence there. But from a more physical standpoint, I continued doing the energy work like as a recipient. And I really started working with my womb space. I see a lot of clients who are going through fertility, have had unsuccessful pregnancies, things of that nature, myself included with a past history. And when I was really diving into the womb healing space, there were 2 to 3 different times where I was releasing these ancestral wounds and these limitations that I had no idea existed before these sessions and experiences. And I would bleed and release afterwards, almost instantaneously. My body would respond in that way. And that happened several times. And at this point, I've had so many experiences. It's like every day is an affirmation of the truth of this, but it just takes being open to allowing yourself to have the experiences.
Yeah, thank you for sharing your personal experience, sharing this story with your friend. And, I think just learning to, like you said, be open to the experience, to not fear it, to allow it to move through us and to see it as knowledge is so powerful in each of our individual healing journeys. So, again, thank you for sharing that, how you connected with it, and the actual experience that you had that made it to where you had no question. There's
Yeah.
just no question that this is happening. This is happening to me, and this is how I'm experiencing it. So thank you for sharing that so that other people can learn to not only be open, but to listen to our body. So we'll go on to the next question. Back to Dr. Adriana. If you could teach the world one thing about how energy actually works in the body that most people get wrong, what would that be?
Well, I think that people just don't get that they can control the energy. I think people don't understand, like we even mentioned this before, that they can control their thoughts, they can control their emotions, they can control many aspects of their own physiology with energetic awareness and tools. I think people tend to function from a victim consciousness where things happen to me rather than I am the creator of my reality. As an empowerment coach, that's a big emphasis in what I do is like my point of view creates my reality. My point of view is an energy. If what I'm creating isn't working, only I have the ability to actually change that by changing the energy of my thoughts, my emotions, or maybe it's some unresolved traumas that I have that are still living in my energy field in my body that are influencing it. Uh, but, and, sometimes crazy thoughts and emotions can come up for you. And it doesn't feel like you intentionally created them, but you certainly have control over what you do with them and how you respond to them. So I think when, it's always experiential. I mean, people tend to be convinced by their own experience of something different. And so I'll explain all that and then I'll have them do some deep breathing. I'll have them tap on some points and I'll use the SUD scale, subjective units of distress, right? Like, let's talk about something that's stressing you out. How stressful is it right now, 0 to 10? Okay, let's tap on some acupuncture points or do some breathing or whatever the tool is. Where's your stress level now? And they'll say, oh, it's went from a 6 to a 3. Not interesting. And so I think that's how you shift someone's perspective is you give them the experience of something different. But it has to be more than just cognitive. Like, there's plenty of people in therapy who will come in with different issues and say, well, I know that's not really how it is, especially when it comes to like a core limiting belief. Like, I know I'm not really totally unlovable. Intellectually, I know that, but emotionally, I don't know that, right? Or in my body, I don't know that. And so if you give them an experience of something different, or you show them that, hey, we actually shifted that energy, you did that. I mean, I catalyzed it, I was the midwife for it, but you did it yourself. People are really taken with that. And I think that's how we create change.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you so much, because that is the empowerment. That is what we are here to show people, to guide people, like you said, kind of be that catalyst so that they can give themselves permission to experience those things and see the possibility and to know that they control it. I think for me, that's one of my favorite things to think about with whatever's coming up, whatever emotion, is that I have control over what focus and what energy I want to give to it. Knowing that I can make that control, take that control away from those crazy thoughts or whatever, and place my focus somewhere else is the empowerment that I need to keep moving forward in my day and just feeling that. But I think, yeah, like you said, control. I think a lot of people just don't realize how much control they actually have. And one of the things that I live by is I get to make this change. I get to control how I feel. I can't control what somebody else may say, think, or do about me, but I can control how I respond or react. And that in
Absolutely.
and of itself is this huge empowerment that we can all kind of take with us through our day. So, Adriana, thank you for sharing that one thing that I think a lot of people definitely get confused about. Well, what about you, Dr. Elsbeth? What is one thing that you see in your practice that people maybe get wrong that you can help them see differently?
Yeah, so further building on the reactivity of the nervous system has to do with, like, when I get angry, when I fall in love, most of us come from that it's happening outside and it's because of the outside. So I blame the environment or I blame another person. This example that I misplaced my key. And immediately my reactive part goes to Freddie put them somewhere. Immediately I blame someone else. It's not reflective. I mean, I don't reflect on it. It's reactive, totally reactive. And then, oh, wow, no, I actually put them in my purse half an hour ago, but I forgot. So that is what we do in relationship. That when I don't feel well, then unconsciously, I turn it into, oh, I don't get enough attention from Freddie. A couple, one of them may start complaining about that the other is never there for them. And then go into even generalizations, like it's like always so. And to see that all my emotions, all my sensations, so emotions and sensations, sensations reside in the body. So when I, feel like there's a knot in my stomach, or someone says something and the fear that arises for me out of what another person said in my stomach, it is my body who has and holds the fear, as well the sensation of the knot in the stomach. So it requires reflection. It requires what we call in our work the witness state, that I learn to witness myself, that I witness what is happening in my body. If there's pain, if there's tension, if there's discomfort, witness my emotion. Like I'm angry, instead of my anger having me and then, just like throwing it back at Freddie or whoever I'm with. I just take a moment and breathe so that I can gather myself and really manage myself, so to speak. And many people, and myself included, until I started this tantric work, the awareness of energy, how it shows up in the body, in the emotion, in thought, I was not aware that I could actually affect how I feel. I was totally externally referenced, totally. And I'm not saying I'm totally free of it, However, now I can witness it more. I can become more aware of it. And then if I choose to, I can step out of it. So I think that fallacy of that our emotions are caused by another or by a circumstance, that this is an illusion, and stepping out of the illusion into, oh, it's my emotion. It's my nervous system who has me feel a certain way. It's not Freddie cannot make me feel a certain way, although it feels like that when he doesn't pay attention or doesn't listen to me, at least in my eyes. But shifting out of that, really noticing, oh, I feel abandoned right now when he doesn't listen to me, or when he doesn't fulfill a promise he made to me. I'm disappointed, to feel that. And then from there to look at how would I like it to be different. So, then I can make requests for Freddie. I don't have to complain. I don't have to make him wrong, and say, okay, darling, could you listen to me fully right now? And he may say, I'm in the middle of something. Okay. I breathe and say, okay, when would you be available? You see, it shifts into we can actually then connect like two partners, instead of me having dropped into this kid who doesn't feel heard and now has to fight for her rights and.
Thank you, Elsbeth, for sharing that, because that is something I think when you're in a relationship with a partner, that we have those external things. And maybe it's things from our childhood, like you said, feeling abandoned. And then it turns into resentment because we haven't developed those tools of introspection and learning how to use our voice to then communicate that clearly with our partner. And, I like how you talked about, asking them to listen to you after you have had time to do that introspection, and being able to accept that maybe they can't listen to you right at that moment. But then you can say, okay, when can we have this conversation? And know that they heard you and that they're willing to sit with you. And also to give yourself that to really think about what you are feeling, so that when you do get together with your partner, you can have a calm conversation about that and feel like you are being seen and you are being heard, as opposed to the resentment or whatever else may be coming up, because now you've felt seen and you know that there's a path. So thank you for sharing that information, because it's so important. I know that I didn't have communication in my previous relationships, and having a partner that sees me and hears me has been a major shift in my adult relationships, and learning how to have a voice and develop those communication skills that I never had before. So again, ladies, I'm going to get to you, Emily, but I just want to thank you guys for coming here and sharing all of these different experiences, because it's so powerful for the listener, and how each listener may connect with each of you differently, may connect with me differently, but how we can learn from each other, so that we do grow and develop into these wonderful human beings that we can be. So, Emily, if you could teach one thing for the world about how energy works in the body that most people get wrong, what would that be?
Love how Adriana talked about us being in control of what's going on inside ourselves. And then Elsbeth pointed out how we project out onto the world. And it just is a full circle moment to the point that I bring to the table here, which is that we are the creators of our own reality. So when we can shift our awareness from trying to control outside, because we never will control that, but controlling what's going on inside and then watching how the outer world shifts. Because my one thing, and it's hard to say one thing, I have two, sorry, but it's that our bodies and our dis-ease or our discomfort is not the problem, it's the solution. Or it's like a first responder letting us know, hey, something's off balance. Something needs your attention. You can be more optimal if you listen and respond to this knock on the door that I'm knocking right now. Can you hear me? Can you let me in? I have more joy available for you on the other side, or I have more freedom available for you on the other side. So when our bodies or our discomfort or our denser emotions are coming up, it's not a problem, it's a solution. And I think that's the one thing. And the second thing would be that it doesn't have to be hard. It doesn't have to be long. It doesn't have to be this work. It can be, but again, it's all about our perception of how we show up to do the work. So we can make it fun. We can take it a little bit more lightly. We don't have to make it so serious, because when we're talking about how what's going on inside of us is a direct match to what's going on outside of us. And most of the clients, I would say, probably that we all serve are coming because they want to feel more of those higher vibration emotions, but maybe they're stuck or they're feeling a lot of density. When we're having fun, when we're being playful, when we can enjoy and hold the duality of something being uncomfortable and necessary, that is how we attract that new reality. When we're in those states, we're going to, move up that scale and attract more. So we always are the creators, and it doesn't have to be this scary, hard thing. We just have to listen to what's knocking on our door.
Yes, thank you so much, Emily. You're right. It's like you said, it's the solution, or it's our body telling us, "Hey, I need you to pay attention." And some of us, we have spent a lifetime of ignoring, pushing it down, or denying it. And when we learn to truly tap in and open the door and invite those emotions in and sit down with them and feel them, that's, like you said, that's when we start to achieve this higher vibration, and we open ourselves up to more understanding. And it really changes how we connect with others, the energy that we're putting out into the world. And so it's so empowering for people to understand what we are capable of, what we can control, and to really just learn how to listen to our bodies, because our bodies are amazing and they are there to show us those things, not just protect us and keep us safe, but to show us what's available to us and what we can do. So thank you for going into that as well. We have come to our very special bonus question. So I'm hoping our listeners have stuck around. We are going to go into a Valentine's edition question here for everyone. Valentine's Day often focuses on our external expression of love, flowers, gifts, and these grand gestures. But real intimacy begins with our energy connection. From your perspective, what are some simple energetic or spiritual practices that individuals or couples can use to deepen that intimacy, awaken love, create this heart-centered connection this Valentine's Day?
Start with yourself, right? And really connect with, those flow states. That's the first thing that comes to my mind is when you're in a flow state and you are um you lose track of time and you're just in like so fully present in the moment. It's like what allows you to do that? Like, I have different moments I can think of that flash in my mind when I'm at the beach and or I'm in the ocean and I'm just floating and I'm like totally in communion with the water and the sun. And I feel that oneness. Often for me, it's in nature. Or also, if I'm dancing, I love music, I love dancing. When I'm moving my body and I'm in the flow of that moment, to me, these are like moments when the barriers are down. So many of us have these energetic barriers that disconnect us from ourselves. So they can be internal, barriers or with the world. Like if I don't feel safe, for example, I might not trust people. I might, have a guard, I guard myself and I put a wall around myself. That's not going to allow for the intimacy you're talking about. So I think anything that allows the walls to come down allows you to be in the flow and really be connected internally with yourself. If you have that, then it becomes much easier to connect with someone else or something outside of you. But I would start with that inside connection first.
Absolutely. That is one thing I like to focus on is the self first and self-love and that safety. Safety is huge in sharing intimacy. And like you said, if you don't feel safe, you have those guards up. And so you have to find what that is for you, where that safety is before you can share it with another and have that true heart centered connection. So, thank you, Dr. Adriana. I appreciate your insight on that as well. Dr. Elsbeth, how about you?
Yeah, beautiful question. Thank you. Oh, Valentine's, it's such a great, moment where we bring our focus to how can we express love for oneself or another, be it a beloved, be it a friend, be it, myself. I can have a Valentine's ritual with myself. And while chocolate and a bottle of champagne and flowers are a wonderful expression of love, it may be really great to go back to the source where that may come from, which, really comes from our heart center where we feel love, just like the little girl that says to her mom, Mommy, I love you so much. And she touches her chest because that is where she feels the love. Nobody ever spoke to her that, oh, this is where your love resides, or this is the heart chakra, or whatever. It is where we feel and experience love, very different from when we are in our head. So we're bringing myself to myself by placing both hands on my heart center, closing my eyes and breathing into my heart center, breathing in and breathing out allows me to return to the source where love emanates from. And the source is really within as well as the source everywhere. Like the source of love is not just within me. It's in you, Leann. It's in everyone, you know. So when I connect here, I actually energetically connect automatically with the source of love that is universal and also in each human being. And then the other practice with the beloved, where we do this heart connection with each other, that we play our left hand on our beloved's heart, and my beloved places their hand on my heart. And then we breathe in together and we breathe out together. We breathe in love from my beloved's hand and send out love from my heart through my hand into my beloved's heart. And then we have the circuit again, just like the energy ball from earlier, remember? We have a circuit from heart to heart. And it's so beautiful because it circumvents the thinking. We don't experience in the head, we feel and experience in the heart and the body. I'm not saying to shut off the beautiful mind, using the mind to focus, bring the energy focus to the heart. So that is what I would suggest for a Valentine's practice.
I love it. And I've loved and have enjoyed watching you and Freddie together on previous episodes. For all three of you, I'm going to make sure and include links to your previous episodes here on the Happiness on Tap podcast. But I've really enjoyed watching you and Freddie together show that so that people can see that energy flow between you two using the energy ball as well. But just having that connection, that intimacy with your partner and not being focused on these external things that the world has made such a financial attachment to these flowers or gifts or grand gestures. I am not somebody that likes those things. I don't want fresh flowers as a sign that you love me today, because I know every day how much you love me, how you love me, how I love you. Those things don't intrigue me or bring me joy the way of the knowing of our love. But I love the practice that you just shared with others. I think it's powerful and it's beautiful. And thank you for sharing that.
Thank you.
Emily, what are some simple, energetic, or spiritual practices that you would suggest for that heart-centered connection this coming Valentine's Day?
Yeah. Wow. It's so funny. I'll start with the couple exercise, because not knowing Dr. Elsbeth's work and then hearing you share your exercise, it's very similar to what my partner and I practice whenever we are feeling disconnected or we just really want to connect with each other. And it's similar, but a little bit different. So sitting forehead to forehead, our foreheads are touching, one hand on each other's hearts, and our legs are wrapped around each other. And so we are sitting like this, facing each other. Our foreheads are touching and we're touching each other's hearts. And then breathing in sync, inhaling at the same time, exhaling at the same time, and just tuning into one another, both here. And we're kind of like creating this toroidal field around both of us and just soaking up each other's love and that union, that bond. And I know that can be very deep for some folks. So like if that feels so like way too much, start with just picking up your devices for an evening, because that's what I notice of couples, that one of the biggest disconnects is just like the busyness and the technology. And so it could be as simple as just being fully present with each other. If you don't want to do this deep intimacy work, you can start there. But for the person who is just looking for love within themselves, whether they're in a romantic partnership or not, it doesn't matter. Self-love is always available to us and is always a good idea. It's your favorite love songs. Sing them to yourself. Like you are, and I think you and I have talked about this in one of our past conversations, Leann, but you're singing the love song to you. You're both giving it to yourself and receiving. And so knowing that it doesn't take having external validation or an external source to show you love. You can do it within yourself. And then when you allow yourself to be able to really feel the depth of the love that is within you, and you are in a partnership or even a friendship relationship, your ability to love and be loved is that much greater.
Thank you, Emily, for bringing that reminder in, that intimacy and connection and love isn't just shared with a partner. It's shared in our families. It's something that we can feel within ourselves very deeply. And yeah, I am definitely one that can get lost in old love songs and just feel that warmth and excitement that I feel through my whole body when I'm listening to certain songs that have, maybe at one point in time that song had a meaning to a partner, but how does it feel now, 20 years later? Do I still feel love maybe if the relationship ended in divorce or somebody has passed on? It's how do you connect now with that same energy through music, through something that you see visually, maybe even through, a flower or chocolates. How do you connect with those things that still bring us joy? So thank you for bringing that up. Thank you, Emily, Dr. Adriana, Dr. Elsbeth, for coming here today, sharing your wisdom and presence. What a beautiful reminder that we all have access to healing energy within us. It's just a matter of learning to listen, release, and direct it with intention. Here at Happiness on Tap, my mission is to make expert health and wellness knowledge accessible and shareable. So together we can share and spread these insights far and wide. And if this conversation inspired you, be sure to follow our guests, check out their work. All of the links will be in the show notes. And remember that when you fill your own energetic cup, you raise the vibration of the world around you. I want to thank our listeners for tuning in. And until next time, keep your happiness on tap. Ladies, thank you so much for your time today.
Thank
Thank
you.
you so much.
Thank you.